Okay, guys, let me begin by saying that you can pretty much treat this as a podcast. All you're going to see is my face. I'm not going to put anything on the screen. So, if you are using me to accompany you on your day, you can just have me in the background as audio only. I have a little bit of notes here that I'm going to be going through, but like I said, nothing's going to be shown on screen. So, welcome back over here. This is just going to be a little chat. It's probably going to be like 75 minutes, knowing that I talk a lot. But, aside from that, let's get going. So, for this video, I want to talk about the three major console platform holders in Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation. And we're just going to talk about what I want and what I fear, from each of them. So let's begin with the one that I care about the least, which is Nintendo. What I want from a Nintendo is a proper PlayStation 5 level console in terms of power and performance. And I want a proper console. I don't mind if they do a handheld on the side. I also don't mind if they do a hybrid handheld. What do I mean by that? They have the Switch 2 coming out. It can have whatever specs it needs to reach that target handheld audience. But I would like something akin to like a Pro dock. You put it in there, it's more powerful than the standard dock that will come with the handheld, and it will allow you to connect to a TV, give you the benefits of HDMI 2.1, hit that target 1440p, maybe even at 60 frames per second or more. Like a 1440p at 120 frames would be fantastic for a Nintendo product. I think nobody will complain about that. So that would be amazing. And therefore, from a person like myself that only ever play the Nintendo Switch while it is dock, I can choose to buy this optional accessory that might cost a few $100s on top in order to give you that extra performance and that extra power. And for the most people that do not care about that at all, they're happy with the standard performance that comes in their handheld, they can just have that. So I would love if they were going to do a hybrid model, hybrid console model, that would be one way to do it. Another way to give me the satisfaction that I'm looking for is to actually have like a dual console model, or like a pro console model that is just a console, just a standard one. It just plugs into your TV, just like a PlayStation or an Xbox, and then have a handheld. But then the thing is, these things will share cartridges, and so when you're on your handheld, the game will be contained in the cartridge, and you just put it to your handheld. You're perfectly happy with that. When you plug it into your console, it will download extra textures, extra gigabytes of files that it needs in order to give you that poor resolution, better textures, better resolution, better frame rate. It will download that extra packet that could be even upwards of 20-30 gigs. So you will have the same game, but then you can use it across both consoles. So a person like myself, I will buy the console only. Certain people will buy their handheld only, and then certain people could buy both pieces of hardware, knowing that they will communicate between each other back and forth. And of course, if you bought the game digitally, each respective console will then do what it needs to do. It will be really akin to like the Series S and Series X system that Microsoft has. So there are inherent limitations in that, but still it would give you that duality that I'm looking for, because I don't think that Nintendo can step away from the handheld market, but I would like them to accommodate people like me. Anyways, it's what I want. Okay, and then the final thing is just better networking and sharing features. I don't game on Nintendo. I've used the Switch to play Breath of the Wild. It was a miserable experience. I hate the Switch with like every single part of me. But one of the things that I know that I would want on top of the performance, if they were going to go this route, is to actually give us networking features, sharing features. I've gotten really comfortable sharing to Twitter, sharing to YouTube, sharing wherever I need to. On the PlayStation 5, be able to directly capture, up to an hour of gameplay, and all of those little things that you think to yourself, man, this would be cool if this was here 20 years ago. Because there are moments from games that I played decades ago that I don't remember, and I don't have anywhere to go find all of them. Whereas now, there's kind of like a library on Twitter of games that I have. I could go into my profile and search for a particular game, or I could, I have access to all of the things that I captured, because after a certain while, I eventually transfer it to my PC, and then I have all the videos there. So I would like that. I would like those networking features. So what are my fears for Nintendo? So my fears for Nintendo simply begin with that they will focus solely on the handheld market. And so whatever desires I have for like a pro model or whatever, that would just be completely out the door, and I will not get a console. There will be no hybrid nature. It would just be exactly what the Switch is, slightly more powerful, slightly more updated, which would be great to a point for me. No, it would be great for the people that love the Switch. No, I'm not taking anything away from you. And it would be good to a point for me, but I don't know if I will buy into it because that's still not really what I want. And then the other one is that they're going to keep a low powered Switch too. Not only are they just going to focus on the handheld market, then they are only going to basically have a lower powered version, of that handheld. You have things now, the handheld market is kind of getting a little bit crazy. You have the Asus ROG Ally, you have the Logitech G Cloud. No, okay, that's a cloud device, but you have the Steam Deck, and you have other things, other players coming into the picture, and bringing forward what this idea of a powerful handheld can be. But I could fully see the Switch to be on the lower end of that scale anyway, and that just won't do anything for me. So that's my fear with Nintendo. I don't have that many fears. When it comes to the games, they're doing fantastic, and I'm happy for the people that enjoy them. Okay, so let's go to basically Xbox. Let's talk about Xbox. So with Xbox, what do I want? Very simply, I want genre defining, award winning, game of the year, game of the generation nominees type of titles. I don't really mind what kind of titles those are, but I want to see a whole list of them. I want to see games that are really held up high, years later, where people are like, no, you need to go back and play that game. They used to have this, everybody talks about Halo 2, Halo 3, even the original Halo. People talk about the first Gears trilogy. People talk about how Forza and Forza Motorsport used to be a really big deal, but it's been a while. It's been a long time, and Starfield has not done that. Let's just be honest. So this generation, they still are to release this type of game, this kind of caliber of a game. And when you look across to Nintendo, when you look across to PlayStation, you can name games. Like I got a Switch, and even though I hated the Switch, and I hated every part of it, including the Pro controller, I cannot overstate how much I hate the Switch. But the game was worth playing. Breath of the Wild was worth playing. I played 150 hours of Breath of the Wild, and I loved most of it. I didn't love every minute, but I loved and I enjoyed my time with it. And I will buy a sequel of it in a heartbeat if they gave me the hardware to actually properly enjoy the game. When you look over at PlayStation, obviously you guys know that I am a fan of what PlayStation actually puts out. So I could list games that for me fit that definition. So that's what I want from Xbox. Number two, I want to do away with Game Pass day and date. And you're going to see when I talk about my fear section that I have a big, massive problem with Game Pass. Let me just say at the beginning, Game Pass is a great subscription service. I think it should be used for a catalog of games, and I think it should do day and date for third-party partnerships and everything like that. However, given the budget that is necessary for the kind of genre defining games that I'm looking for, which often cost upwards of $100 million, there is no way you recoup that with Game Pass day and date. And let's be honest again, they have not been doing the Game Pass day and date promise. They have been giving you Game Pass games from their first party delayed by a week. Then they give you the actual release dates as early access, but it's not early access. It is access on release day, except everybody else that's on Game Pass gets to wait unless they want to pay upfront. So the whole Game Pass day and date promise is already broken. But I think they should just completely do away with it. Release games onto Game Pass 3 months after release. It will give plenty of opportunity for those people that really are enthusiasts to buy into the game, to get the majority of your sales in the first 3 months, or even the first 6 months, or even the first year. Whatever it is, get away from that Game Pass day and date promise so that you can recoup that money, so that it is worth investing that money back, investing another $150 million into a sequel or things like that, because that's a lot of money, guys. So I want them to go do away with Game Pass day and date for so many reasons, but the primary one has to be the budgetary concern. You cannot make a $200 million game and then try to recoup that through Game Pass. It's just... And even if you sell it in other places, the fact that Game Pass exists and the Game Pass has it there a week later, Yeah, it just doesn't equate. The math doesn't work out. So, and then the final thing that I want from Xbox is for your executives to stop talking. You guys go on way too many podcasts, way too many news interviews. You talk too much. You're on Twitter, you're on social platforms. You're constantly talking. You talk, and then your fan base uses that to hype up and to inflate your position in the industry, to inflate where you rank up, where you stack up with your competitors, how your products are going to deliver. You inflated yourself, you lie yourself, and eventually we find out that talk is cheap. And so you come up and you have this inflated, undeserved hype behind your products, and they're garbage. They are absolutely garbage. And they are garbage because they did not deliver on what you yourself promised. I'm going to give the fan base a break here because it is not the fans that put out the Forza Motorsport trailers showing a level of ray tracing that is clearly not in game. That was not the fans that did that. It is not the fans that say 4K 60 native on Forza Motorsport. It is not the fans that said, on Starfield, walk on, Explorer. You can walk the entire planet if you choose to. It is not the fans that said, hey, this will be based on exploration. It is not the fans that thought about Halo Infinite and showed this in-engine gameplay trailer that had it is so far related from what we got that not only is it not like a sibling, it's not a cousin, it's not a step cousin, it's not even the same species as the final game that you delivered. Xbox executives, marketing partners, you guys talk way too much and you talk so much crap that you never deliver on. So stop talking. Let's talk about my fears for Xbox. So the first thing that I fear the most is that Game Pass will subvert the need for innovative experiences. Game Pass works best. Okay, its pitch is twofold. There's twofold. Number one, it is a library of games, and this I am perfectly fine with. PlayStation Plus Extra feels the same benefit. I love PlayStation Plus Extra. I think those things definitely deserve a place, and I really am. I'm so grateful for Game Pass and PlayStation Plus Extra for providing gamers that are younger, that are newer to the medium, a way to buy into gaming without necessarily having all of the financial outlay. So that's the first promise that Game Pass fulfills, and I am fully satisfied, gratified, grateful, and confident that that is a good promise to fill. The second one is this day and day promise that I touched on earlier, and that is that because you now have to fulfill this library of games, not only will the budget be severely, if you think about it, severely restricted to maybe only a few breakout titles, maybe only a few flagship titles will get flagship prices, flagship money behind it. Like, Ghost of Tsushima was not a flagship title, but it had flagship money behind it. Horizon Zero Dawn, the first one, was not a flagship title when it released, but yet it had flagship money. Like, it was a risk, it was a bet that they took on. They took $100 million bets on those two games at PlayStation, and those thankfully worked out, but they were not guaranteed. So how many of those bets are Xbox going to be able to do with Game Pass day and date weighing everything down, on top of the fact that it's already a risky proposition to spend, let's say, $100 million on a new IP that is unproven? So that's what I mean by it will stifle the need for innovative experiences, because at some point you have to take risk out of the factor. So yes, maybe the next Halo, maybe the next Gear, maybe the next Forza, maybe the next Fable, maybe those will get the full budget, they'll get a $250 million budget. But then what about franchises and IPs that do not exist yet? What will they get? Would there be a risk to be like, hey, listen, we're going to make, the next Mass Effect, and we're going to take a $300 million bet on it? How do you recoup that money back? How do you even break even if Game Pass exists? You either have to have a lot more people. And again, Sean Layden, who was head of PlayStation, talked about what PlayStation would need to do to make that a reality in their ecosystem, and he said they will need 500 million subscribers. So this whole 100 million goal, that's not even close to what it should be. And yes, you can say that PlayStation is not Xbox, but even if you have his estimate, that's still 250 million subscribers that Microsoft will need before they can make these kinds of bets because of Game Pass Day and Date. Like, you guys see how far from reality we are So how far from the reality we are in which Game Pass can recover the cost for all of these things. Okay, so that's my first thing. The second fear is that Xbox is going to collapse under the weight of Game Pass and acquisitions. So I already talked about Game Pass, and again, when I talk about Game Pass, I like the service. It's just a day promise that I find problematic. But then the second one is the acquisitions. So many things to be said here. But the first is that people imagine that because they paid $7 billion for Bethesda, because they paid $69 billion for Activision Blizzard, that that's it. It stops. The buck stops there. But it doesn't, because now you've taken nearly 20,000 new employees or something like that, and you have to pay those guys. You have to pay them salaries. You have to clean their offices. You have to give them like new headquarters and new buildings to work in. You have to pay for equipment. Now you are taking on not only the outlay that you paid initially, but then all of the salaries and all of the things that comes with running a company. That's a lot on Xbox. And the thing is, Xbox did not have this money. Xbox never made this money. It's Microsoft that did. So now it's like you made a pact with the devil. How long are they going to let you keep leeching money, siphoning money away from other businesses and other creative pursuits they could be having? Microsoft is wealthy enough to do this forever without ever making a single cent off Xbox if they wanted to, if they were just in it for the fun of it. But the thing is, these investors, these board members, they do not care about doing things for passion's sake or creativity's sake. No company does. Sony's board doesn't care about doing PlayStation because they feel like, or because they think it's part of the heritage. They care about it because it makes them money. The problem is, Xbox doesn't make money. And if Xbox continues to acquire, which is my third fear, that not only do they have these acquisitions that they've already made now, which have already put them billions of dollars in the red as a division, no, they will continue to make more major acquisitions, more publishers. I'm not talking about small studios here and there. That there is perfectly fine. In fact, I think it's necessary. Like if Xbox was to go and grab an Ember Lab, if Xbox was to go and grab a Supergiant Games, that would be perfectly fine, because you will be getting these smaller size studios a home, a financial backing that they need, and a place to publish exclusively to, which I think is a great thing. So I'm not talking about the small acquisitions. I'm talking about the large EA, Ubisoft, Embracer Group level acquisitions where you're buying entire publishers, Devolver Digital, things like that. How much is Xbox going to be able to actually sustain that, unless they go fully third party? But even if they do go third party, they still have that whole Game Pass thing weighing them down. And I'm telling you guys, Game Pass is an anchor. The way that they have set it up, I just think it's going to let them drag. So I am afraid that they will keep making acquisitions, and that eventually the Xbox as a division will collapse under the weight of that financial pressure. Okay, finally, let's talk about PlayStation. You guys know this is where I play. This is my home. I don't play on PC because I don't enjoy the PC gaming experience, despite that thing that you see in the background. That's for work, by the way. I don't play on any other console because none of them give me enough of what I want. So I have a lot to say about PlayStation. This might be a long chapter. So with PlayStation, I want 4 games per generation per studio. 4 games per studio per gen. Yeah, that's it. So for example, let's say that a generation is 8 years long. From a Naughty Dog, I would like 4 titles to be released during that generation. I'm not talking about remasters or remakes, but I'm talking about 4 titles. I do not mind if they are sequels to existing IP or if they're brand new IP. I do not mind if they're single player games or multiplayer games or live service games. But at the end of the gen, when the PlayStation 6 has landed, when it's like boom, I'm here, I want to look back at PS5 generations and have seen 4 titles from Naughty Dog at the least. Same ditto for Sucker Punch, for Guerrilla Games, and for every other studio, including things like Media Molecules and some of the smaller ones that we don't typically talk about. So that's what I want. 4 games per studio per gen, and the more studios they acquire, just know that that requirement I will put onto those studios as well. Clearly, PlayStation is very far off the mark. Insomniac as a studio, I think is the only one that has actually reached this already, and it's only 3 years into this generation because they released on the PS5. They released Miles Morales, they released Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and then they released Spider-Man 2. So that's already 3 games in 3 years that they have put onto the PlayStation 5. So one more game from them and they'll be golden. They'll be done this generation as far as I'm done, as far as my requirement is concerned. And then everything else after that is a bonus. So I would love to see the same thing from every other PlayStation studio. Okay, the next one is I would like a better PlayStation 5 user experience. I love the PlayStation 5 UI. However, there are elements of it that are just lacking. There's things like the playtime count. On Spider-Man 2, I have played probably 24 hours. Right now it says 12. It is grossly inaccurate. And this is something that has been shown time and again, especially at the end of the year when they give you the whole like gaming summary. And then, you'll find a game that just has an overinflated playtime or and completely underinflated playtime. You'll see a game that you spend hundreds of hours in and then it'll tell you only played it for like 45 hours. They need to fix that it's embarrassing. Like if you're going to spy on us, if you're going to track everything that we're doing, at least to do it properly so I can get my stats at the end of the year, or I can get my stats throughout the day as I play, and I can understand exactly what my gaming habits are and where I put most of my time, so maybe I can make more informed purchasing decisions for the next games. So fix that. Other things, trophy tracking. So again, Spider-Man 2 is a good example of this. I understand that they will get patches and everything like that, but it's just embarrassing that at a system level, trophy tracking, not that it doesn't pop your trophies, but many times there are trophies that, for example, are based on collectibles. So there might be 50 collectibles to collect. And many times, not just in Spider-Man 2, but in many other games, that count is inaccurate, or it stops working for a while, or it freezes. There's just things about tracking things on the PlayStation 5 that just seems to elude them, and I need them to fix it. Okay, like it's an embarrassing problem to have. Another thing is that when it comes to like hints, certain games on the PlayStation 5 have game hints, and those are fantastic, guys. If you have never looked at game help, it pops up in the card. And for example, in Spider-Man 2, when I'm tracking the spider bots that you can collect, it will tell you which ones that you have actually already gotten. So let's say you're just playing the game organically and you're just picking them up as you find them. But after a while, you're like, oh, I only have 4 left. Where are those? You pop up a card, you look for the spider bots trophy guide and everything, and it has the hints there. It has the videos, it has the text, it shows you exactly where it is. You can pin it to the side. It is such a wonderful feature. However, that feature doesn't always work. And also, it's not standardized across all titles, which is a weird thing. Another thing that I need them to fix is just the whole card UI, okay? The card UI is kind of a smorgasbord of ideas and what I want to say, contextual inputs that your PlayStation 5 thinks you need. So for example, let me give you just a quick thing. If you are listening to music through Spotify, through your PS5, there will, for example, be a card that will be your media card, and then you can pause the music, and then you can, fast forward the track right from that card. It's a really wonderful card. It really helps you manage that, and it's great. It's fantastic. But at the same time, because it's contextual, it will take up a slot where another card could have been from the game itself. And then there are times that you get a card from the PlayStation 5, let's say help, system UI thing, which tries to teach you more about the PlayStation 5 features. There are times that you don't. The point is, whenever you pull up the card UI, it is really it is incredibly likely that you're going to get a smorgasbord of cards and you don't know exactly where every single card is. There doesn't seem to be a logic. So, for example, the trophy card is always on the left unless you specifically have interacted with it before. And it just changes around so much, not just within a single gaming session on a single game, but from game to game, that it is... The fact that it is not standardized, the fact that there is not a lot of rhyme and reason as to why certain cards will pop up. For example, there might be, let's say you're playing Spider-Man 2 and you have, let's say, 12 collectibles. I don't know if there are 12 collectibles, but let's say you have 12 collectibles, okay? I think I had this happen in Forbidden West, and I was going after a specific set of collectibles. So, I'm playing the game and it tracks whatever collectibles you're picking up, because there's a hint for that, whatever. Playing Forbidden West, and I'm going for a certain kind of collectibles, and I've done 3 or 4 of these. Now, by now, you would think that the PlayStation 5 will know, okay, this guy is going specifically, he's interacting specifically with this kind of content. Therefore, when he pulls up the cards, let me make sure that one of those cards, at least, no matter where it is, has that particular content or is the trophy card associated with that content, so he can get the hints and everything like that. And it works like 60% of the time, but then the other rest of the time it doesn't work. The whole card system is, it's missed potential at the moment. They should fix that. I want them to fix that. Okay, and then finally, I just want more nuance control over the system and sort of like where things are placed. When you look at the control center, which is what happens when you do a quick press on the PlayStation button, there are certain things that you can remove, there are certain things that you can't, but you can't add specific things. Like I wish I could just add my own options. Like there's options in settings that I go and fetch all the time, things like test the internet connection, things like that, or whatever. Like, let me create my own little dock so that I know that, I always tend to go for this, not because you at PlayStation think that I should have it, but just because I should have it, and I want it there, and I don't want to always dig into the menu. So just nuances over the settings. Another thing is 3D audio. 3D audio is fantastic, guys. Get a good pair of headphones. It is amazing. But when you are picking your 3D audio profile, I've never liked that interface. It tells you to choose levels. I can never be quite sure. They all start sounding the same after a while. I would love a better demonstration. Like Dolby has an Atmos demonstration where you have like a leaf falling through and everything. Have something like that, like build it out. Okay, you could even make it like a separate downloadable package, like it doesn't have to be built into every single PS5 because it's only for people like me that care about those nuances. But you could let me like download like a 5 gig video that has like each setting applied to it, and I can listen to each of them, and then I can make a better, more educated selection of what I'm trying to do. So just small things like that, it would be wonderful. Okay, and then finally, the last thing that I want from PlayStation is I want them to stay away from quirky AA passion projects types of games. Okay, now got into a few arguments about this on Twitter, but basically here's a short of it. From first party PlayStation studios, I want only AAA, big banger, shoot for the moon type of games. I don't want small little indie projects. I don't want AA games. I don't want passion projects that come with a quirky vibe. Like I don't want Yakuza. Like, oh my god, I hate the Yakuza series so much. It's I don't need them to be from a Japanese studio. I actually don't want them to support Japanese studios, devs and everything. I don't enjoy a lot of Japanese games. So yeah, fuck it. I don't want it. This is just burning bridges the PlayStation audience right now. But yeah, no, I don't think that the studios belong. I have enjoyed my Western studios games a lot more, so that's what I want them to focus on. But I feel like that's just me talking about the fear. Okay, that was just a rant. Point is, give me the big banger games, even if they are from the Japanese side of things, which I don't particularly care for, but still give me the big banger games. Like at least make it a game that is, trying to be the next Horizon or the next Last of Us. Like make it a big ambitious game that had a lot of money behind it and a lot of budget and a lot of polish and a quality product at the end of it, and stay away from passion projects. Okay, so let's talk about my fears. My first fear is, surprise, surprise, that they will create more passion projects. Fuck those. I don't want them. They're terrible. No. Like Concrete Genie, passion project. Dreams, passion project. Those were garbage games. They were terrible. Awful. Okay, my second fear is that they are going to create substandard live service products. First things first, I don't particularly care if these live service products are successful out of the gate. I just don't want them to be substandard. Take a look at Destruction All-Stars. That was trash. Destruction All-Stars was pure garbage. It was pure, unadulterated garbage. It was awful. It was awful through and through. It was a game in search of fun, and it never found it. That's garbage. That was supposed to be a live service. That was a disaster. I don't want more of those. I don't mind the live service push. I don't mind 12 games, 16 games, 25 games that are live service from PlayStation. I don't mind it at all. Do whatever you believe you can do. I just don't want them to be substandard. I also don't need them to be successful. So take a look at, for example, Ghost of Tsushima Legends. I believe that that is a quality title. I still haven't even played it, but from everything that people say, it's a quality title. However, I haven't played it. It is a niche game. It is a niche multiplayer experience. But I'm really glad that it exists. And I would like this live service to at least meet that bar, at least be a great niche experience that a subset of people can enjoy. You know, The Last of Us Factions, I played 400 hours of. I love that game. Really, really love that game. It wasn't successful. It wasn't the biggest money maker. And I'm not even sure if it will be successful going forward. But still, it was a quality product. So if you're going to put out these live service games, just don't let them be substandard. And when I'm looking at fair games, it's not looking good. That trailer did it no favors. Absolutely none. So yeah, I just don't put that just don't put that garbage. Okay, come on, just don't put that garbage. The next thing that I am afraid of is that they are going to cave to the pressure of acquiring studios and publishers for the sake of acquiring studios and publishers. Acquisitions for its own sake is not good. Gross acquisitions of publishers is already problematic, no matter who does it. I do not want PlayStation to acquire Square Enix. I don't want them to acquire Capcom. I don't want them to acquire any of these big publisher partners that they've had in the past. I truly am not in support of that. I'm not in support of it today. I'm not in support of it tomorrow. It is not because Microsoft does something that I find problematic that now I'm going to somehow allow, or in my mind be comfortable with the idea of Sony doing an equally problematic thing as some kind of retaliation or preventative measure. I believe it is problematic no matter how it happens. I'm not in support of it. But a lot of media, a lot of people, talking in the industry have kind of taken it as a bygone conclusion that this is what PlayStation is going to do. I hope that they do not cave to that pressure, because when you are in front, you have to play your own game. Every company should play to their strengths, and acquisitions is not one of PlayStation's strengths, at least not when it comes to a huge publisher, simply because they've never done it before. And I don't think they should. So let's just move on. Okay, the other thing that I'm afraid of is that they are going to go too long between big AAA releases from their studios. I talked about it before. I would like 4 games per studio per gen. I think PlayStation 5 kind of has to be seen as the start of a new gen, of a new era of PlayStation. And what I mean by that is that right now, this is the first time that they've been able to come into a generation, the first time in a while that they'll be able to come into a generation with huge momentum. The PS3 was really a reset point. So the PS4, again, because it had no backwards compatibility, it was kind of like a soft reboot of what PlayStation was about. But PlayStation 5, they were able to carry the momentum through incredibly smoothly. There are still people to this day that do not feel the need for a PlayStation 5 because the PlayStation 4 is holding them up so well. And it's only now that they're getting Spider-Man and things that are exclusive on the PlayStation 5 that are like, okay, now I feel the need to upgrade. So that means that they had a really smooth onboarding and on-ramping for the new console. So going forward, I understand that I might not get my wish of 4 games per studio per gen, but maybe 3. But if it's like 1 or 2, that's far too few. Like if Naughty Dog only releases 2 games this generation, I'm not okay with that. They need to expand the internal teams to handle multiple projects, and so that we can get to that whole 4 studios per studio per gen thing. So that's it. Okay, and then finally, the last thing I'm afraid of is that they will not fully update the PlayStation 5 user experience. That's a small thing. I talked about it before, that I want them to really dive into it and make sure that things are seamless and as user customizable as possible. Okay, this isn't an Apple device, please. Let me put some options together myself. So yeah, that's it. Those are my biggest fears for PlayStation. Okay, that was a huge segment. Jesus Christ. All right, now let's talk about Just some random off-topic stuff. Okay, I've talked about Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, what I want and what I fear from each. Let's have a quick like check-in to what I believe where each player platform is at. Okay, first of all, Nintendo. I believe Nintendo is doing fantastic. I think Nintendo is great. Like they are honestly breaking records that I always thought the Switch was going to be successful. I wasn't on Twitter back then. I wasn't really I wasn't on YouTube at all. Really, I wasn't even listening to podcasts. So I was quite honestly surprised when I go back and people believe that the Switch was not going to be successful. So I always believed it would be successful. Did I ever believe it would be this tremendous success? No. Did I ever believe it would be more successful than the PlayStation 4? Absolutely not. Did I believe that Nintendo could get away with never decreasing the prices for games and those games would just keep selling like Mario Kart 8? Never. Did I believe that they were going to get an Animal Crossing moment? Of course, I was influenced by a pandemic that I also didn't think was going to happen. But hey, the point is, no matter what, Nintendo is really at the top of the game. They are the best they have ever been, if you ask me, and they are providing experiences left and right, multiple games a year. And I think the first party studios are the most prolific, most productive, most creative, and most financially successful when you probably look at how much money they put into a game versus how much revenue, brand cachet, status, and other things that they got out of it. So Nintendo doing fantastically. I think the handheld console in the Switch is utter garbage, but a lot of people disagree with me, and that's all that Nintendo should care about. Okay, so when it comes to Xbox, what do I think that Xbox is? I think that Xbox is in the most dangerous place that they've ever been in. I truly believe that Xbox as a brand is taking on too much. They are pulling themselves in too many different directions. And what I mean by that is simply this: they have a console, they have PC, they have the cloud, they want mobile, they want your TV, they want to be everywhere all at once. And if you're pulling yourself in so many different ways, what you guys need to think about is this. Primarily, as far as we are concerned, there are three key input methods for gameplay input you are from a player. The first is a touch screen. That's typically what we assign with mobile. The second is a controller. That's typically what we assign to consoles. And then the third is keyboard and mouse, or KBM. That's typically what we assign to PC. Of course, there are other input methods. There are fight sticks, there are cockpits, there are um, racing rigs, there are those little dongles you can attach to phones. There's many other ways to input a game, but looking just at the primary three, so that's a controller, KBM, and a touchscreen device. I think those are the best ways to think about gamers, okay? A touchscreen gamer, a primarily touchscreen gamer, is not going to be interested in any of the other two forms of input methods. A primary console methods, primarily controller gamer, is not going to be interested in the other two input methods, and then a primarily KBM gamer is not going to be interested in the other two input methods. But the thing is, game design has to take into account which of these input methods is going to be the primary input, because the entire game design is wrapped around that. There's a reason that real-time strategy games do not really feature heavily on consoles. There's a reason that touchscreen games do not do well, when they are sold on the PlayStation Store. There's just this is how you delineate, gamers. And the thing is, Xbox is trying to go after all of these people. That's dangerous. That's dangerous. On top of that, they have Game Pass. That's also dangerous. It's not working out. It is not working out. Yes, you can say that Call of Duty now and Activision Blizzard will bring in new people, that Bethesda will bring in new people, as they should. But are they going to bring in hundreds of millions of new people? I don't know. It's a dangerous place. Then they have all of these acquisitions. Forget about the money. Forget about the big headline cost. Forget about the $76 billion that they spent. Fine, whatever it is. My problem is, they are going to now have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of extra employees, hundreds of potential new projects that they have to fund, have to supervise, have to direct to a good, satisfactory release. so that it is a quality product when it gets into players' hands. And let's be honest, they were not doing well when they had 5 studios. What makes us think that they're going to be doing great now they have like 35? Like it's just, if you have a person working for your team and he's got 2 projects under him that are under his supervision and his jurisdiction, and then suddenly he's not doing great. Like he's not doing great with those projects. You're not gonna go and pile an extra 12 projects on top of him and be like, yeah, now you'll learn how to juggle. Like it's a dangerous position. Let's talk about PlayStation. Where are they? Now, I am extremely satisfied with the PlayStation 5 generation. I am truly blown away. I love the console. I love the original design. I think that the new Slim is but ugly. I hate it. But that's fine because I have the original and I don't have to look at the new one. I love the games. I've really had a wonderful time. I love the UI. I love the DualSense. I think PlayStation is in the greatest place that they've ever been. They keep selling the most consoles that they've ever sold, the most games that they've ever sold. Their financials just keep, being positive on top of positive. So I think the numbers back up my position as well, or at least they give evidence to my sentiment towards PlayStation. But just as a player myself, I am extremely happy with what I've gotten. Of course, there are things that I wanted. That's why I talked about them first. But I think PlayStation is doing good. I think that what they would then have to do is simply satisfy the PlayStation gamer and fully commit to their ideas and their way of doing things without being distracted. PlayStation is playing a particular type of game. They have a particular value proposition, and just like Apple, they need to keep focus on competing with themselves. They can't look at what Xbox is doing. They can't look at what what Nintendo is doing. All they can do and all they should do is satisfy the PlayStation 5 customer more and more and more, as well as providing new avenues to entice new gamers to come over, maybe from PC, maybe from mobile, maybe to be the first gaming experience. And I think they're doing well. They just have to be able to balance things out and to learn to ignore, as they've been doing for the most part. I think they've been doing great at ignoring their fan base, because the fan base on PlayStation is extremely raucous, extremely loud. There are plenty of people that are PlayStation fans on Twitter that I absolutely refuse to follow, because they just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and always wish that PlayStation was talking. And I just disagree with that approach. So that's it. PlayStation is doing great. Nintendo is doing great. Xbox is in a dangerous place, but maybe I'll be proven wrong. Okay guys, that's pretty much the video there. So I'm going to take off now, and yeah, let me know what you think. I was going to touch on more things about fake outrage and everything, but this video is already long enough. So you know what, y'all have a good day. Yeah, have a good day. Ciao.